Hello and welcome to On Location with Grady McTavish. I'm your host with the most, and I already said my name, so I'm not going to say it again. I'm sitting across and having a great time with Tanya Clary. Tanya is a writer, she's a poet, she's a professor, she's a feminist activist, and you're a...
Psychedelic psychotherapist.
I got to ask you questions about that because that sounds like the most interesting job in the world.
Please do.
So Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
As the year comes to a close, I don't feel as much of an artiste as you are. So I wanted to dress the part, and I wanted to practice our art together, if you're down to clown.
Sure.
Perfect. So what I would like to do is I would like us to draw each other. I draw you, you draw me, and we also try to draw the person we hope the person becomes in 2026. So while we're drawing, I have so many questions for you. Mainly because you wear so many different hats. So let's run down them again. So you're a professor, you work at NLC College.
Yeah.
Northern Lights College here in Dawson Creek. What do you teach?
I teach psychology. Yeah, I've taught there for probably almost 20 years.
You also write. You write short stories?
Both fiction and nonfiction, and then poetry.
You're also a passionate feminist activist.
Mm-hmm. And
you're also a psychedelic psychotherapist.
I am.
Do you find it overwhelming with the amount of hands you have in different pies?
No, I think I've probably always been a little bit busy that way. If anything, taking on this property, it's a sustainable property. This has been a lot of work. It's taken a lot of my energy. I think I've always had quite a few hats. I think in a small town, you become known in one area and then somebody, oh, we need your help with this. It's easy to take on many, many hats.
You mentioned the small town, you mentioned Dawson Creek and keeping busy. Do you find that it's difficult or encouraging to work in Dawson Creek as a writer?
Well, oh, that's a good question. I find poetry is quite personal, and I think that people who write poetry, they draw upon themselves and their feelings and their trials and tribulations. That's often how we express ourselves. And I think in a small town, you can write all you want in a small town, but do you want to read all of your personal stuff to people who will
see in the grocery store or whatever,
or in the college, or yeah. So I think that part becomes hard. Being
vulnerable and kind of the anonymity of the city,
yeah,
kind of helps with the writing. You talk about being a writer, and I also wanted to talk about you being a feminist, because I think that would be difficult in Dawson Creek to be a feminist and to support feminism and feministic ideas. I feel like since about 2015, there's been a rise in a misinformation campaign against feminism,
yeah,
and what it actually is. But especially up here, I think it would be incredibly difficult. Is that the case?
Yeah, I spent many years in Fort St. John, and probably one of the greatest jobs I ever had was being the executive of the Women's Center in Fort St. John. And so we did a lot of work. We had a really strong group of women who I feel like I could have presented anything. Like we did. It was, I don't know if you remember that time where there was a judge who had ruled on a woman. It was a rape case, and there was like suggestion that, well, if you didn't dress like a slut. So all around the province, they were having what was called the slut walk. Yeah. And many communities were doing it. It was a big feminist statements about some of the injustices going on. When we first started at the Women's Center in Fort St. John, we were trying to fundraise, but also just to get more seen in the community, we decided to do the first vagina monologues there. We had rented the cultural center and we had tickets sold, but we really, in the background, behind the stage before we went on, we really were not sure walking on if we were going to get booed or if, we didn't know if we had fans in the audience or not. It was quite terrifying. We weren't allowed to put posters up around town because of the word, and it was just a weird time. And I feel like in some way we've shifted maybe backwards a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. And a lot of it does seem to be misinformation about what feminism is. And about, I don't even know what people who don't support it believe, but feminism at its core is about equality between the sexes, and I don't see anything wrong with that. People tend to demonize that in a way. And being in Dawson Creek now, are you able to be an activist still for those feministic activities and missions, or do you find that it's not really a thing?
No, I think when we were doing those events and the activities, there wasn't social media. I would feel a little bit too vulnerable now. Yeah, which is sad. I think sad.
Yeah, that is sad.
Yeah, but I just noticed a general pushback. It's so weird when somebody says, I'm not a feminist. It's, you're against equality. Like, I can't really wrap my head around it, but I also don't argue it anymore. I don't feel like educating people anymore, taking a position. So I think I've also changed.
Yeah, well, you kind of have to be a bit hard-nosed when it comes to that because of that shift in culture and that shift in perception about feminism. Do you think having a women's center here in Dawson Creek would help with the perception of feminism and help women as well in the community? Do you
For
think?
sure. There used to be a women's center in every town in BC, and then, of course, politics gets involved, and many of the centers shut down. I'm not sure if Chetwynd still has one. It was Fort St. John and then Quesnel, and all of the funding was taken, and it was a lot for just the few that survived, and those few that survived are thriving now. But yeah, if there was a community here, for International Women's Day, for example, I find it very scattered, and people try to do something here and there, but there isn't this one central group where women can come together and really be loud and proud.
Yeah, absolutely. Your activism bleeds into your writing as well?
Yeah.
Do you think that is a form of activism?
It's actually how I started writing. I became a writer through speaking about feminist issues. Yeah, it just seemed an easy way to express yourself.
How did you get involved in psychology and then eventually teaching it?
There's some people who just know what they want to do.
Yeah.
And probably at 16, I knew I wanted to be a therapist. I was always told I'm good at listening, and I just am endlessly fascinated with people. I wanted to work with teenagers, and then I worked in a group home when I was going to college and university. It was just something that I just always knew. So yeah, I just plugged away at my education, and I just knew my path.
Curiosity is not only one of the most important qualities working in psychology, but also in art as well.
Yeah, I think that there's a definite overlap. If you look at some of my heroes, they were in the realm of psychology in some way.
From learning about psychology and eventually teaching it, is that the jumping off point to the coolest job title I've ever heard, psychedelic psychotherapist?
Yeah, I was a therapist for years.
Oh, wow.
I had a private practice up in the north for probably 15 years. Yeah. And as you do in any field, as you get more and more into it, you get the harder stuff. And so migrated into trauma, PTSD, disasters, that stuff. And I worked with first responders quite a bit, probably in about 20, well, I mean, let's be honest, my own experiences with psychedelics, recreationally and otherwise, are always very positive. If you would have told me 10 years ago that I was going to be a psychotherapist using psychedelics, I would have said, you're nuts. I had a healthy fear of psychedelics, never misused them, and they just weren't in my world very often. But in BC, we have this underground pool of therapists from Victoria that kept this therapy going long after it became researched. It was classified as illegal, but these therapists kept this going for decades. Okay. And it was my governing body. And so I knew about this, and as a therapist, talk therapy is wonderful and it's very powerful. I've seen some amazing things. That's why I kept doing it. But there was always a few people who you couldn't break through, and there's a limitation there. I kind of went, okay, I need to learn more. I trust the people who have been keeping this going. I think it was probably 26, I went, I'm going to learn a little bit more. I wasn't jumping in with 2 feet. I was very cautious. I had people around me going, are you kidding me? So I was very careful. I'm a very eclectic therapist. I'll take from any area if it's going to help my clients. And hence the reason why I'm constantly learning different techniques and different methods. And so this was one that I thought, no, I'm just going to try this. I just couldn't deny it after a few years. And then, of course, testing against myself, testing with other therapists who I knew and trusted, and we were all saying the same thing. There's something to this. It's not for everybody. I'm not somebody who says everyone should take mushrooms. I still think taking mushrooms at a crazy party or a music festival may not be very wise. It's not my idea of fun, but medicinally and therapeutically used in the right context in the right way, set and setting, I have seen some of the most profound experiences of healing. Yeah.
And when you first, say you're talking to a client, is there some resistance because of their ideas of, say, if you say, okay, maybe this might be the right thing for you, is there some resistance that you find with their preconceived notions of mushrooms or any psychedelics?
I don't present it to clients. They've come to me. Up here in the north, I'm just one of those people. I often say that psychedelic, it just helps you break through. It just helps you break through the things that you haven't been able to for certain people. For other people, taking psychedelics is always going to be awful. Doing it with me is not going to be any better, and don't do it. Don't try it. I'm not suddenly going to make it easier for you. Some people will just have terrifying experiences, and it's not going to be beneficial. But there is a certain type of person that I can 100% say, this is going to help you. I've seen a lot in therapy. It's been an honor, but I have to say, being a guide to people under a big dose of some sort of psychedelic and seeing these experiences has been, I'm just in honor of being there. I thank them for allowing me to help them experience what they're experiencing.
How do you know the difference if it's not for... say if someone comes to you and you're not sure.
Usually it's things like, have you had good experiences before?
Oh, I see.
And the answer is, if the answer is no, I've had terrifying experiences, it's like, this probably isn't going to be any better.
With that being said, you have all these different things. Can you pick one out of being a psychedelic psychotherapist, a professor, a writer, a poet, one thing that you're the most passionate about, or is it all on the same level for you?
Oh, that's a good question. I kind of feel like at this stage, of my life, getting this property, because this studio is used for psychedelic psychotherapy. People come, they spend the day here. This is it's solar powered natural water collection. So it sort of has a really peaceful feel to it. Being here on this property, being a psychotherapist, having people come here feeling safe. We grow our own food, and then the infusion of teaching psychology and teaching a whole bunch of people who want to learn psychology is pretty fun. I mean, the marking isn't fun, obviously, but when people are interested in the things that you have to say and the things that you're learning, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Have you taught? You've taught a little.
I taught film. It's a course that's offered at KPAC in Dawson Creek. And I just loved it because, again, it's that passion. It's just pure joy. And it's like they're wanting to learn, and it's also something that you're passionate about. I was talking with someone today, and they were talking about having the analogy, the metaphor of having a cup that's full. And if you're full of passion and you're full of creativity, passing that over to other people when you're full is just one of the greatest joys you can have.
It's just a fusion of people who, and I mean, you get in that in other ways, like you do in your films and having a whole bunch of actors around, and that can, you can feel the same energy. Yeah. But to do that as a job is pretty. I don't know, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. No,
and there's
absolutely.
always there's just students that years later I'm still, we're still in communication, we're still so cool. Sharing. Yeah, it's neat. Yeah. So. Yeah, I wouldn't say that one thing is kind of standing out for me. I'd say that everything is kind of connecting, in a cool way.
Do you think there's something in all those interests that you have that connects them all, in terms of a type of skill that they use or something about them that connects all of them together?
I don't know. Do you think so? Do you think?
I feel like
is there a thread there?
It seems like creativity.
Yeah.
I think creativity, even, being a therapist, I think there's a level of creativity to that. Dealing with people and helping them, and the way you talk, there is creativity with that. And I feel like you're just a very creative person and has multiple different outlets.
You're right. Like being a therapist, you have to, I mean, I guess you can be a therapist and have the cookie cutter type way, but every person is different. So you can't come in with any preconceived notion of how you're going to interact with them. So you do have to be really creative, but also have just a lot of tools in your toolbox.
Tools in your toolbox.
Yeah.
I find that as well with teaching, because you could just go through the motions, and but being creative tend to teach kids I'm a substitute. I find that when you be a bit more creative with stuff and engage them on things that they like, and you use different methods, it makes it more exciting for you. Even
with teaching, every semester there's a different influx of students. And especially with AI now, being an instructor,
oh my goodness,
it's crazy.
What is that like?
I feel like we're going back 30 years. It's like, okay, we're doing everything in class. Nobody can type anything now. Everything has to be handwritten. And everyone's like, oh, I don't even know. And I was like, I don't know how to handwrite, but we're all handwriting. Here we are doing, back to paper and pen, back to groups, keep your technology out of the classroom. It's really changed.
That's wild. And where do you think that for students that may be a bit less motivated than others, it's an easy way out? But do you find that that's the only reason people use, at least as students, is because they're feeling unmotivated and they want the easy way out? Or do you think there's something else there in terms of using AI?
Oh, I think it's fine for them to use AI for things like editing your essay. But if you're going to get it to write your essay, well, you're going to get caught. It's pretty easy for us to recognize it. When you start interacting with AI, it's like, oh, that's AI.
Yeah.
So
you can just tell.
You can just tell. Even with courses like human development, they're going back to personal essays. So take something from the chapters on human development, but you need to apply it to yourself in some way, which is hard. That's harder than it was 5-10 years ago. And so has AI made their life easier? I'm not really sure, because here they are having to pull from the depths of their experience. Personal essays now are just like, whoa, like I can't believe I'm like, thanks for sharing with me, like all of this stuff. It's made it harder for me though. I used to be able to just do a research article on this topic, and they had to do the topic and the citations and references, and that was it. So my marking was quite easy. And now, like,
highlight it, throw it in GPT.
Now it's personal stuff, and I'm like, I feel like I'm almost being in therapy with them, through these personal essays. So AI has really put it's. I don't think it's ruined education. I think that we really have to embrace it because it's here. And so how do you work with it? It's definitely made our life more interesting.
You're a writer. And if someone comes to you and they're at a writing group with you, they hand you something and it's pages of Chat GPT, what does that make you feel?
Yeah.
How do you feel personally when you get something like that? Because for me personally, it's your work and whatever, but it's like it's against the fundamental idea of writing, which is a human being, even though I'm an android, a human being expressing ideas about life to other human beings, and it's like it's automotive, and it just goes against the fundamental idea. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. And as an alien, I have to say, it's a little disheartening, but it's become so clear, like it's so obvious now, and so I think the novelty of using AI for creative stuff, I think it's very quickly worn off. Yeah. And so we just don't do it very often. But even at our writing group, we're sitting in the library writing. Yeah, like we've kind of gone back to this other, like.
Isn't that interesting? Technology gets to a point where we have artificial intelligence, and it can do all these incredible things, which causes us to have to regress and have to go back to pen and paper.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Yeah, it is wild. I don't think AI does anything that we can't do. No. It just does it quicker. Faster. Yeah, and so, like use it to edit. But, be clear. Don't change my work, but, make sure everything's capitalized and the spelling and the punctuation is proper. Pretty, go ahead, do that. But for the content itself, I think that the novelty, it's pretty clear AI is not there yet.
Do you think it will get there?
Yeah, I do.
That's my thought too. But I also think in a weird way it's also going to inspire creativity. You know, it's like when you talk about, you know, not to get into politics or anything like that, but, you know, there's been a lot of upheaval, especially during the pandemic and post-pandemic, a lot of upheaval with, you know, across the world in terms of things that are happening. And I find really great art is created out of that. And I find that really great art is created almost in defiance of what AI and people that use AI for content try and do, which is trying to automate the artistic process. And I feel like great art isn't motivated by that. No, I'm a human being and I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
You know, it's gotten to the point with our movies, like even for administrative tasks, we won't use AI. You know, because we just don't stand for it, right?
Right.
And we don't want to support it in any way. But yeah, do you feel something similar? It's kind of like going to motivate some artists to.
Yeah, like we're not doomed. It's part of, you know, the development or the evolution of our species and our world. But yeah, things. So even in you know, during COVID, we were all locked up. Everything was online, and we switched everything to video conference. And now the students are desperate for in-person classrooms.
Yeah.
And at our college, we have video conferencing, or we have online courses. Well, guess what classes are filling up? It's the in-person.
It's a human to human.
They want a human again. Yeah, and I do think with art, maybe not as much publishing, maybe there'll be more live performances. You know, I think there'll be something that's going to, our art isn't going to die. You know, we're going to continue to be creative. I just don't know how.
I wanted to ask you something as well. We left one title off of your little massive resume of things. You're an actor.
Yeah.
So you acted in our movie.
Yes, that was fun.
For Raw Heel for TELUS STORYHIVE. How do you like acting?
Love it. I've always acted from the time I was in junior high.
Have you acted in anything else in Dawson?
No. When I first moved to Fort St. John, I was like, hey, there's a theater group, how fun. And so I joined, and the next thing you know, I have no idea what's going on, but there we are, driving to main stage. And it was just like, so got to go down to the Kootenays and you know,
cool.
perform, and got a little award. And
oh, excellent.
Yeah, it was
what did you perform?
Fun. What was it called? Opening night?
Opening night? Yeah,
it's just a goofy little fun play. And then, of course, when I went to the Women's Center, we started to perform, man, we had to hustle. One of the best ways to go and get donations from people, and I'm the one that will, by the end of the conversation, be talking somebody out of not donating their money to me. I am literally the worst person to get money. And so I did know how to perform. I knew how to do that sort of thing. And we did the vagina monologues. And then we did these things called Evening of Sensuality, which really pushed the limits. And so we started to do those. So for probably
cool.
6-7 years, we did live theater.
Push the limits of, in terms of material, or was it just pushing your guys' abilities?
No, it was material. Yeah.
The material?
Yeah.
That's the fun part. I love doing that. That's when it feels alive.
And it was like, it was a feminist production, which is, and so for me being, I mean, I wasn't really the director, but I just said, hey, here's 15 people. You guys each do something. And then they did. Even the night before, sometimes we had no idea what somebody was going to do. But it had to do with sensuality, and it was crazy. And then, of course, it was one of these, I don't know how people decided, but people started coming dressed up. They had corsets on, and they had, like, very, very sexy. And
that's wonderful.
Yeah, they were really fun.
Did you want to do something like that again?
Yeah, I'd love to do something like that. And I mean, I think that with the writing group doing the projects, we've done 3, and we're going to do a 4th project, and it's the same thing. I just say, here's the theme. So the first one was empty chair. I mean, if somebody wanted more information, I'd say, well, empty chair is a therapeutic technique, you know, that therapists used to use. And so we didn't know what people were going to do for the empty chair, and then it was the archetypes, and so what was the last one?
The Future Project?
Yeah, the Future. Yeah, Project the Future. And so again, just kind of leaving it. There's zero micromanaging. Just tell me what you need. We'll get you the stage or the mic or the music that you need.
So cool.
Yeah, and man, some of the projects that they have been so good.
And then the writers come up and they perform it live.
Yeah.
Correct? Like the written word.
And not just writers. There's musicians. We had somebody for the archetypes just pull on a tree and, you know, walk around with the light, and it was all performance art. Yeah.
And that to me is, I like to see what people do. Really creative people, I like to see what they do when you don't manage or micromanage them, and then it's like, boom! It's like the greatest creativity you've ever seen. It's so out of the box and so extraordinary.
Yeah, yeah. And I've been part of that, and I've seen it, and I know it works. But you do need to have trust. And some people, they'll be a little bit more. They want more hands-on, or they want more direction, and it's like, no, that's not what I do. I'm sure it's good for another production, not for what I'm involved in.
Right. I think it's time to show our drawings to each other. Do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Okay. Well.
I'm so ready for this.
Okay.
We're going to show the camera on 3, 2, 1. Okay, can I see mine first?
Okay, I think I've maybe projected onto you a future.
Okay.
That.
Is it good?
Well, you're in the mountains. I do feel like you need to get outside a little bit more.
That is so
maybe for
good.
A hike or something, And I don't know, you've got a little bit of an Asian twist to you.
I think that I have a Fu Manchu sort of
a little bit.
hair.
I wanted you to be like artistic with like the the neat little mustache,
where
but
you
that
twist
didn't.
it.
Yeah, that didn't work out. But you should do that.
I think that's a great idea.
Oh, you'd look great with a twisty mustache.
Do you want to see yours?
I do.
It looks like crap. Yours actually is so cool and surreal. I don't know why you were worried about this. This looks like crap. This is Tanya.
Oh.
So Tanya, you have money in your eyes because you're rich. This is cash. And there's sun. And no AI. And the mothership is coming to contact you.
Oh, nice. Love
so you
it.
have that. That's what I'm hoping for in 2026 for you.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Tanya. This has been an excellent chat. I hope to one day be an artist like you. I think I'm dressing the part, but I think I need to figure certain things out.
Yes, I'll be teaching a drawing.
You should. It actually looks very nice. It actually looks very nice.
I don't even know who that is, but yeah.
Thank you so much. We've had a fabulous time. Thank you for inviting us to your wonderful abode, and we'll get out of your hair. Thank you guys so much for watching On Location with Grady McTavish. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you have a great new year, and make sure you love one another. What a fantastic episode of Story Hives On Location, Dawson Creek. Thanks again for Tanya Clary for sharing your stories and allowing us into your beautiful home. Would you like to be a future guest? Make sure you scan the QR code and fill out the form, and you can come aboard and share your stories as well. I'm Grady McTavish, and thank you so much for watching Story Hives On Location, Dawson Creek.